Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Republicans in Congress are currently laying the groundwork to be able to look the men and women who served our country honorably in the eye and say, good job. You did what was asked of you. You served your country and put your life on the line. Now go fuck yourself. Let me explain. Earlier today, The Economist published an op-ed titled, "American Veterans Now Receive Absurdly Generous Benefits." They ran this op-ed without a byline, which almost certainly means that the author was a member of Trump's inner circle. And given how positively the op-ed refers to Elon Musk, I think that it's pretty safe to say that the author of the op-ed is someone who is close to both Elon and Donald Trump. But this op-ed isn't the first time that a member of Trump's inner circle publicly signaled that they're coming for veterans' healthcare benefits. In fact, Pete Hegseth, Trump's own nominee for Secretary of Defense, is on record as far back as 2019 suggesting that veterans who apply for and receive all of the benefits that they're entitled to through their service have no personal integrity, and suggesting that those service members are simply looking for a free ride. And Project 2025 lays out in black and white Republicans' plan to limit veteran disability payments, close VA hospitals, and privatize the Veteran Health Administration, systematically draining them of funding as a precursor to eliminating it altogether. So first, let's talk about what this op-ed is describing as absurdly generous benefits. The maximum monthly disability benefit a veteran can receive in the United States is $4,000 a month or $48,000 a year. If you look at this map, which shows the living wage for each state as of 2019, you can see that even the maximum monthly disability benefit for an American veteran is not considered a livable wage in all but 2 states. And keep in mind, this map is using data from 2019. And again, that's for the maximum monthly benefit. In actuality, the average monthly disability benefit that disabled veterans receive in the US is $2,200 a month or $26,400 a year. Again, comparing that to the map, even in 2019, today's average disability benefit a U.S. veteran receives would not have been even 50% of a livable wage anywhere in the United States. Just right off the bat, this op-ed is complete bullshit. But it's important to talk about because as you read through it, it really truly lays out the core arguments that Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, and all of the Republicans in leadership are going to make against veterans' healthcare benefits next year. One of their core arguments that they are telegraphing that they are going to make is that expenditures on veterans' healthcare have soared in the last 20 years or so. To make this argument, they point to VA and veteran health expenditures after the Vietnam War running through the 90s and say, see, look at how much less we spent on veterans' health back then. These new veterans, these millennial veterans, must just be milking the system or claiming disabilities that they don't actually have. But one of the main reasons that we spent so little on veterans' health care following the Vietnam War and why we're spending so much more on veterans' health care now is that the U.S. government is still having to make up for the inadequate care that they provided Vietnam War veterans exposed to Agent Orange during the Vietnam War. Following the Vietnam War, tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers came home and began exhibiting what we now know to be the side effects of being exposed to Agent Orange. For decades, the U.S. government fought tooth and nail to avoid paying for the health care of these tens of thousands of soldiers, despite the fact that they knew that the government's choices were why these men were getting sick. It wasn't until 2019 that Congress finally passed a bill acknowledging that we had, in fact, knowingly exposed tens of thousands of soldiers to Agent Orange while they were serving in Vietnam, and finally give them the disability rating that they had been entitled to all along. So obviously, having to make up for decades and decades and decades of denying Vietnam War veterans benefits costs a lot of money. So passing that bill in 2019 caused the budget for veterans' healthcare to balloon starting in 2020. Similarly, in 2022, Congress passed the PACT Act. This time, it had to do with veterans of the global war on terror, who had been systematically exposed to extreme amounts of airborne toxins due to our government's use of toxic burn pits. Soldiers began coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan and developing horrific health issues, including extremely fatal forms of brain cancer, as a direct result of their exposure to these toxic burn pits. Luckily, this time around, Democrats in Congress, along with a few Republicans, said, look, we're not going to repeat the same mistakes that we made with Vietnam veterans. We're not going to make the men and women who served our country spend their final months or years fighting the U.S. government for health care in order to avoid bankrupting their families. We're going to make it easier for them to have their chronic health conditions and disabilities recognized by the VA. And we're going to cover their health care because it is literally the bare minimum of what we owe them for their service to our country. Just like with the Vietnam veterans in 2020, the PACT Act caused a pretty significant increase in expenditures by the Veterans Health Administration. But it is not money that we can just simply choose to not spend. Uncle Sam signed a contract with these men and women. Our country told these men and women, you sign on the dotted line, you go to war and put your life on the line, you do what Congress and the president tell you to do, and in exchange, we will take care of you. Point blank, period. We must uphold our end of the bargain. They have already done their part. We cannot simply renege on the things that we said that we would do in exchange for their service and their sacrifice to our country. But that is exactly what Republicans and Donald Trump are attempting to do.